You thought it was over, but the music hasn't quite stopped yet. There's one more quarterback that could be on this carousel. What about Jimmy G? What do they do with him? Who needs him? Who has to go take a look at him? And how can he affect your franchise or one of these? Today on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Locked On Chiefs. He's at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. I am at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day and be the first to hopefully kind of break some of this news to you or break it down in a different way. Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers have said, hey, go ahead, seek a trade. They told him, his agent, go do what's best for you and see if you can find a suitor. So, first, what were your thoughts when you just heard this news kind of come out? Which really, it shouldn't be too much news because the 49ers, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people have been really questioning this whole process. And they're like, oh, do they really want to get rid of Jimmy? Are they trying to keep him around because they have Trey Lance? Do they not know what they have in Trey Lance yet? But the whole time they've said, we expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be traded. We expect Jimmy to be traded. Yeah, we tried to trade Jimmy, but he got hurt. Okay, we'll see if he's healthy. If he's healthy, then we'll try to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. So they've been trying to trade him, but now the news comes out that he's throwing the football, which actually we've had conflicting, I guess, reports. One, Ian Rappaport yesterday was saying, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo has been throwing for the last few weeks, and he's expected to be fully cleared mid-August. But then Adam Schefter comes out today and says, he's ready to go and he's cleared and they can seek a trade. So what were your thoughts when you first heard this?
My thoughts were it's about dang time because like you said, it's been out there for a long time, right? And there's one franchise in particular that has to go do this right now because of who Jimmy is and what he can bring to the organization. And I just dropped this morning on NFL33.com. You guys can go sub over there. It's our Substack. Me and my staff look at the league outside of the teams that we cover every day. And it's funny because this is kind of a trickle-down effect. The Cleveland Browns have to go try this. They have to. Andrew Berry's in a tough spot. And that's really what this whole piece that I did over there is about because he's got to shore it up. We don't know what's going to happen to Deshaun Watson. He could be out an entire season. And looking at Jacoby Brissett leading that team, as much as we said last week that we think Jacoby's a solid backup, he's not a starter. 17 games is not something you want to see from him. Jimmy is a guy that has been in this situation before where he's got to come to an organization and kind of right the ship or at least steady it. And I have supreme confidence in him to do that. And I know you've seen him up close. So for me, it's about the fact that they have a need that they have to go fill. And now the Niners are free and open to say, hey, go out there and find yourself a new house. Should it be Cleveland, and what do you think is the best fit if that scenario works out? What does Jimmy bring to them?
Yeah, I think Cleveland makes a ton of sense. You talked about Jacoby Brissett, who is there, and I think the immediate question is how much of an upgrade is Jimmy Garoppolo over Jacoby Brissett? And we'll get into, Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of who he is, his pros, his cons, all that in the next segment. But I think the big thing here, which can potentially hold things up, is how long is Deshaun Watson suspended for? There were reports floating out there yesterday evening, and when I say yesterday, I mean Tuesday evening, about, hey, is he going to be suspended for an entire season? They're saying anywhere between 2 to 8 games. That's what Florio is reporting. So if Florio is reporting 2 to 8 games, I believe if you trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, it's to be your quarterback for an entire season. And what you sell to him is, look, we won't restructure your contract too much, or if at all. So you get paid your $27 or $24 or $25 million, and you'll play on that. It'll be a 1-year thing. But one, this is a great opportunity. If you're coming to the Cleveland Browns, it's a great opportunity to play for a roster that's legit. You have some legit weapons out there with Amari Cooper. Obviously, you can lean on the run game. You did a lot of that in San Francisco. Well, here you got Kareem Hunt. You got Nick Chubb. You got Dearness Johnson. And they drafted a rookie as well, I believe, the forward out of Cincinnati. So you got a plethora of guys that can run the rock. You got Njoku at tight end. And the defense is pretty stacked. And if they can stay healthy, we're talking about a really good team. So I would tell to him, look, you're going to look good here, and that's going to go earn you a big contract somewhere else. And that would be great. Now, but again, the holdup is what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. I just believe if it is a 2 to 8 game suspension that's being reported by Florio, I don't think you trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, because I don't think you pay him that money to come in for 8 to 9 games or even 10 games and then say, all right, we're just going to hand the keys over now to Deshaun Watson.
Well, I would disagree with you only because I would pull the trigger, because if you're Cleveland, you have to make sure that you are up to everything you can accomplish this year. You got, like you said, you got a pretty good roster. You can't waste a year that by throwing away, 6, 8 games, possibly on a half a season even, you know what I mean? So even if you have to pay him that, it's 1 year, you have $48 million in cap space. Go pay it, and then Deshaun doesn't have to come back, as soon as he's eligible. He doesn't have to start week 1. You got to work him in a little bit. You could get 10 games out of Jimmy. And if that assures you that you are a playoff team and that you might be pushing for that division title, I think that's more than worth it to pay for it if I'm Andrew Berry, because he's in a tough spot. If you waste a season of this roster by not having competent quarterback play, you're in trouble.
I think looking at their schedule and kind of how their season starts, I think it's pretty favorable, I guess you could say, for them. Nothing too crazy as I look at the roster. As I look at the schedule right now, week 1, it looks like they open up against the Carolina Panthers. Very winnable. New York Jets week 2. Week 3 on Thursday Night Football, you got Pittsburgh, then you got Atlanta. So I'd say even the first 4 games, if you get competent play out of Jimmy Garoppolo or even maybe Jacoby Brissett, you might look at it like, hey, we feel confident that those first 4 weeks, we can come out of there 3-1. And then the next few weeks definitely get a little bit more difficult. And then shortly after that, you potentially get Deshaun Watson back. So we'll see. I think that's going to be the big holdup. What's going to happen with Deshaun Watson? Are they going to be able to keep him around? We're going to talk about more of that and kind of dive into Jimmy Garoppolo. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Built Bar. And from the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried this amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built Bar are giving you coconut brownie chunk, the Puffs treatment. Let's go. I love the Puffs. I love them. All right, that's right. The coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love is now deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate, and it's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. All right, but stop drooling all over yourself, or maybe I should be talking to myself about that. They are good for you, low in calorie, low in sugar, high in protein, and very delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. So like most Built Bars, you got to go head over right now to Built.com and make sure you get it now so you do not miss out. They are going to go fast because they taste amazing. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. So you can eat something that tastes good and is good for you. The best part about the Built Bar Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing. But you can enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually good for you. They are the perfect treat. They are perfect when you are having a craving. You need something satisfying your sweet tooth like I do on a regular. It's a quick and healthy snack, and they are an excellent source of protein. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet, brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Go to Built.com right now and order your coconut brownie chunk Built Bar Puff right now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off of your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Which NFL star moves the betting lines the most? We've already started. July 18th, they started the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. It's available right now anywhere that you get your podcast, and it's also on YouTube. There are already 30 players in, so go check that out right now. All right, we're going to continue to dive into Jimmy Garoppolo and kind of who he is and what makes him tick and what he can really bring to a team. I think the thing that jumps out to me the most about Jimmy Garoppolo and what probably really helps, result in wins, he is probably one of the best leaders in the NFL. whatever he does, and I don't know what mojo he sprinkles on his teammates, but they love him and they go to war for him any day of the week. You cannot find one teammate, present or past, to say anything negative about, well, excluding Martellus Bennett. Martellus Bennett and was it Julian Edelman?
I think so.
Yeah, it was Edelman. Yeah, except for those two guys because of a decision he made when he was with the Patriots. But as far as the 49ers go, you can't find a teammate from the 49ers to say anything bad about him. They love him. They do anything for him. And they back him. Even though I don't think his play has been necessarily great, I think he does a really good job of playing solid situational football. So if you are looking for a quarterback that's just going to light it up throughout games, it's probably not Jimmy Garoppolo. If you're looking for someone who will move the sticks when you kind of need it most, will make that one throw where it's like, okay, I need this throw right now, he's going to do that throughout the season and it's going to result in wins. So if he were to have to play a full 17-game season for the Cleveland Browns, I strongly believe he is definitely a guy that's more suited than Jacoby Brissett to lead them to the playoffs. Now,
I agree with you.
He has his, cons. And part of it is he kind of limits what you can do from the offense. Now, so far, and we will get to another team, but so far we're talking about Cleveland Browns. Stefanski comes from kind of the same Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. They run a very similar offense, or at least similar principles. And I think that fits Jimmy Garoppolo extremely well. He's not a guy who really throws well outside the numbers. He's also not a guy who takes a ton of shots. I don't know if that's the head coach Kyle Shanahan restricting him and he's saying, hey, this is not what you do well, so we're not going to do these things, or if that's just not the way his eyes work. And we definitely noticed a different, anyone that covers the 49ers, in the aggressive nature of Trey Lance when he played as opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey Lance, with some of the same concepts, was pushing the ball downfield at a higher rate than Jimmy Garoppolo. So, again, smaller sample size, will that hold up with Lance? But it leads you to believe that what you see with Jimmy Garoppolo, he's very efficient over the middle, intermediate passes. He can definitely put the ball in guys' radius for catch and run opportunities. But if you're looking for someone that's going to throw these contested catch passes or bombs away, that's not necessarily Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's not what has led him to the victories he's had with the 49ers.
What I see from the outside, and you cover the team, I don't. So from what I see out there, the main things that I see are above average quarterback play in terms of moving the offense. Like you said, there's some arm limitations on the outside, but that's okay. Above average there, good leadership, and above all, consistency.
I'd say great leadership.
Okay, great leadership. Okay, great.
Because I think that makes a difference. And when you have to take that field and you want guys to really back you and say, hey man, like this is the guy we got to follow. Whatever he does, and I don't know how he does it because I'm looking at the players like, y'all don't see how you kind of won that game and not Jimmy. But like for them, it's no, Jimmy won that game, and right. I get it. They've done nothing but win most of the time since he's there when he's healthy, and that's another kind of knock, the health issue. He's missed a couple of seasons, but they back him. So that's why I had to stop you and say, no, great leader. But and he's not like super like vocal. Talks about he's like a bad texter and stuff like that. George Kittle has kind of thrown that out there. But whatever, he must get very vocal on the sidelines, and guys really believe in him.
But the consistency is the big thing after that, is you get mostly of what he is all the time. And look at the Cleveland Browns. You've had up and down quarterback play like a roller coaster. You've got a guy that half the locker room, turns out, couldn't deal with and didn't want to be with anymore. And like you said, Jimmy gets buy-in from everybody. And a guy that, with those ups and downs, I don't know that he would be considered a greatly, above average quarterback any more than Jimmy is. So what you're getting is an evening of the playing field and the guy that can let that team be who it is, run the ball, hit the tight ends, hit the inside receivers, and move the ball. Let the defense play. I think they can win a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're not the only ones who might think that. There's another team that's a dark horse out there that we got to talk about as well, because that affects the draft.
Right. So coming up next, we are going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks, and Ryan doesn't know this yet, but I wrote down a potential sleeper team that might be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo's services, depending on when he gets either let go or is still in the 49ers. We're going to talk about that coming up next. All right, Ryan. So obviously the Seattle Seahawks, you look at that team and you're like, all right, you got Drew Lock, you got Geno Smith. I'd assume, and I think most people in the league, we might get 100% buy-in on this, Jimmy Garoppolo is a better option at quarterback than those two guys.
Yes and
right?
yes.
So you look at their situation, would the 49ers be willing to make a trade with Seattle? Because, these are big-time rivals. I think everyone that's associated with the 49ers, I don't want to use the strong word hate, but they do not care for Seattle or Pete Carroll. And maybe it's as simple as, hey, the boogeyman and Russell Wilson, he's gone. Now the Kansas City Chiefs have to deal with him in the AFC West. But do you still not do business with them? Or do you say, you know what? Nah, y'all can have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Let me be the guy that isn't with everyone else. They're willing to let Jimmy go, right? Why is that? Because they know him the best.
Right.
You put him in Seattle, even though it's against your rival, you have to feel, as that staff in particular, that you know him the best and you know how to counteract him. You know how to make him nervous and you know how to make him make mistakes. So while it's super strange to think about trading interdivision, if anybody's going to do it, I think they have to feel like, hey, if we get our price and we get the picks that we want, we can still beat Seattle with Jimmy driving.
All right, now, here's the thing that I think Seattle has to kind of think about a little bit. All right, then I'll talk about the kind of sleeper team. But if you are Seattle, do you say, you know what, we're going to just stick it out with Geno Smith and Drew Lock this year, and you know what, if it doesn't go great, then there's Bryce Young, there's CJ Stroud, there's all these other quarterbacks. There was actually like 10 quarterbacks over the quarterback I really like, which is Will Levis. But do you go with one of those guys, or do you say, man, nah, Pete Carroll's really old, so no, we need to make something happen right now?
I think there is that air of immediacy, but I also think that Josh Schneider's not a guy that's willing to lose. I don't care what the situation is. It's not going to be okay that, hey, we're going to do this on purpose to get Bryce Young or CJ or Will. I have a lot of trouble believing that owners might want to tank Miami Dolphins, but I don't think GMs and head coaches can bring themselves to do that. This is an ultra competitive league, and it doesn't matter whether you're a 70-year-old coach or a 21-year-old rookie. You're there to win, and I think everybody understands that. You tell me I'm wrong. You've been in the room with more guys than I have.
No, they're all on winning, and that's why you hear some 49er players like, look, we win with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, the players don't care about the development of a young guy. Like, they've seen, hey, we win a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo, and we don't know what we have in this guy with limited starts. We'd rather just stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. Why move on from him? So there's definitely that element of it. But I have a sleeper team. And let me know what you think about this. I'm looking at the depth chart right now.
I like this.
I know who they have at quarterback. But any guesses? First, I want to give you a chance to guess. What team do you think I'm thinking of?
I mean, I know you're not going to overreact to the Cougar thing in New York.
Nah,
that's nothing. I'm not going to be. You tell me.
All right.
I'm going to be wrong.
What about the other New York team? They're clearly not sold on Daniel Jones, New York Giants. They brought in Tyrod Taylor, and he's solid. You know, how much do they want to win right now? They brought in a new head coach. Maybe he's saying, you know what, want to see what I have in Daniel Jones. But maybe if Jimmy isn't traded by the start of training camp and you get a chance to see Daniel Jones and Tyrod, and you're just like, wow, they still have Davis Webb. But, you know, you're looking at it and you're like, great.
I can't say you're wrong, but to me, like, the persona that I get off of Brian Dable is he's like, I fixed Josh Allen. I can fix Jones.
Right.
Give me a year to work with him. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like Dable's confident that he can get what he needs out of that offense without having to go trade for something. But maybe he's a huge Jimmy fan, too. Who knows?
Yeah, and that was my thing. And I remember talking to a lot of the New York Giant fans during the offseason. They were talking about, oh, yeah, we're going to draft a quarterback in the first round. And it's like, not only did you not draft a quarterback in the first round, you had several opportunities to get Malik Willis or one of these other quarterbacks, you know, in several other rounds. And they're like, nope, we're good with what we have. And that's what I figured they would do. I'm like, dude, y'all have Daniel Jones. You're hoping that, hey, we got a new offensive mind for him. He has all the talent. He does. He has the mobility. He has athleticism. He has the arm. He has all that. Can he put it all together? Hopefully Brian Daboll can help with that. If not, well, our security is Tyrod Taylor.
Yep.
And that's a guy who has maybe had some bad luck, but he's been a solid pro, and he can fill in a pinch and potentially start most of the year. Matter of fact, last time he started a full season or most of a season, the Buffalo Bills, they went to the playoffs. All right, so a lot of people forget about that. When they drafted Josh Allen, they were in the playoffs just that season before. Like, they were just in the playoffs. And then they went and traded for Josh Allen. So it was because of Tyrod Taylor. So maybe they're looking at it like that, where it's like, but maybe they see where it's like, the players aren't getting behind these guys. The receivers don't care about them. And they have solid receivers. You look at their core. Kenny Galladay, if he can turn it back on. I really like Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney. We'll see what happens with him, because there were some trade rumors and stuff like that. Wan'Dale Robinson, they just drafted him. He's a rookie. So I think there's some guys there, but it's going to come down to the quarterback position. And do you not see Jimmy Garoppolo as a potential landing spot in New York?
It's not that I don't see it. It's just an outlier for me. It's probably of the three that two that we've talked about, of these three, I think it's probably the lowest on the list, only because it's so new for Daboll, and I think he probably feels like he can get a boost without having to spend that money. But if the cost comes down, there's no reason not to, because if you are Daboll and you want a security net, Tyrod's great. You got to think that Jimmy's better, though, right?
Yeah.
So if you're thinking long-term 2-3 seasons that you want some continuity there, why not? Then you have a veteran backing him up that can push him, and maybe that's what Daniel Jones needs the most.
Do you have a guess of when you think, a prediction, when Jimmy Garoppolo will get moved?
I think they want it to be before training camp opens. Obviously, that's really close. The quarterbacks are coming in a couple of days, I think, in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
So Cleveland's not far behind, if I remember the release schedule. I expect it before, say, the 5th of August, before everybody's playing the preseason games. You got to get them in there. There's some immediacy to trying to get Jimmy on a new roster so you can get there. I think it's the Cleveland Browns. I think it gets done.
Yeah, and if it is, let's say, because I hear we'll know more about the Deshaun Watson situation by next Friday.
Right.
Like before training camp starts, you'll know. And if it comes out he's suspended for a year, I expect Jimmy Garoppolo to end up being a Cleveland Brown.
Bullet train to Cleveland.
All right. But that's going to do it today on this episode of Locked On NFL Draft. Didn't do too much draft talk, but I do think it kind of ties into the draft. See what Seattle does.
All team building ties into the draft, buddy.
All team building ties into the draft. We want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, Locked On Chiefs with Ryan Tracy. And, of course, you got Locked On 49ers with myself, Brian Peacock. But until next time, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.